Hello everyone, this is Haseeb Awan and with me I have Dr. Mike, and today we will be talking about cybersecurity and privacy threat to healthcare professionals during COVID-19. We'll keep it sweet and simple, and Doctor will go through how he has been protecting himself after the security breach. We expect this presentation to last for 20 minutes, and there will be a recorded version for that too. So if you watch, happy to, if you're watching live or if you're watching after a show, you're more than welcome to use them, utilize these strips. But one thing is, you should do it, and you should take security very, very seriously. So we'll go over a couple of things why it's important. So let's start off with uh, what is basically at risk, right? Like this is very important for you to understand. So with me, as I said, I'm Michael Varon, which runs a family practice in the Bay Area, and I'm Haseeb Awan. I'm a victim of SIM multiple times, and that's why I started Ifani, which is the most secure cell phone service. Michael is a victim of identity theft, as I mentioned before, and now he dedicated his life to offset security and teach people how to make themselves secure. So every second, three Americans become victim of cybercrime, and the reason for that is because they don't take it seriously. They believe it will never happen to them till it happen, and then they're screwed. Also, criminals are able to hack or track you from anywhere in the world, and then they can monitor your where are you, how you're moving. They can get into your accounts, access your call logs, and do a lot of things that you don't want them to do. So they will technically drain and destroy your entire life. I'll just play a 3 minute video just to give you an introduction about what the problem mainly is.
Well, do you remember how hackers targeted Hollywood and exposed stars' private photos from their cloud accounts?
Hackers exploited a weakness with cell phones. Now they're using the same tactics to steal from everyday people like you. You're about to meet a man who lost $1 million, nearly his entire life savings.
Consumer investigator Sasha Jones is here now with his story. Sasha.
That's right. If you have a mobile phone, you are a potential target in the SIM swap scam. You've probably seen the messages on your bank account, social media, and email. It asks you to add a phone number to add security. But thieves have hacked this extra layer of protection, and the scam starts when your cell phone suddenly shows no service. We searched our nationwide database of consumer complaints.
Why would they take control over my phone number?
And found viewers around the country complaining of the same SIM swap scam.
They stole $4,000 in less than 2 minutes.
I had $1 million stolen that night. It included my daughter's college fund, my retirement.
Imagine checking your phone one day and realizing your bank account had been drained and your life savings were stolen. That's what happened to Rob Ross, who was the victim of a type of hacking called SIM swapping.
SIM swapping is a new way for crooks to essentially take over a victim's cell phone while they're sleeping.
I didn't know this could be possible. I didn't know it could happen. In that minute, I realized that I was under attack.
SIM swapping targets the SIM cards located in cell phones. Here's how it works. A hacker using bribes or tricks somehow gets a customer service representative from a cell provider to make a SIM swap over the phone. This gives the hacker access to the victim's phone number. From there, that opens the door to the victim's email, bank accounts, and other applications.
The entire process can take as short as 20 minutes and take a victim from having $1 million in cash to literally not 1 cent left.
Fear. I just had complete fear.
It seems like every week there is a new way that hackers are convincing the telephone companies to change SIMs.
Ultimately, it's always going to come down to human failures at large corporations. If you can trick, bribe, or convince someone to do something bad, that's where the liability lies, and they should be held accountable.
I don't know if I'll get all my money back. I think that this is a unique type of hack attack that doesn't require much sophistication. 10-year-old can do an illegal SIM swap.
There's not much we can do to protect ourselves from the SIM swap happening. What we can do is protect ourselves from the damage that these crooks can do once they have control of our accounts.
So yeah, so this is like a smaller video of 3 minutes to show you how bad it could be. And frankly, with any victim, they believe it will never happen till it happens, and then there's not a lot of options. So if you implement like this 15-minute task, there's a chance of you losing money or your risk go really low. So I'll let it go, let it Mike take over. and walk us through. I'll be just facilitating the webinar from now onwards.
Okay, thank you, Haseeb. And first off, my name is Dr. Michael Varon. I want to thank Haseeb and Afani for facilitating this. And the goal is to discuss personal privacy and security, primarily for healthcare providers, because we are at risk. A few disclosures. This is informational only. I am by no means an expert. I'm a family doctor, and I was a victim of identity theft, and that's how I ended up finding out more about this, and I took a real interest. I've got family and people that I love that I wanted to protect, so I started to delve more into it. I don't work for Afani. I'm not an investor, but I do use and I endorse the service because I think it's very valuable. A little bit about me. I'm board certified. I've been in family practice for 25 years in the Bay Area, Northern California. And how I got into this was about 5 years ago. I tried to file taxes, and my accountant could not file them electronically. Didn't know what was wrong, just the IRS would not accept it. It took a while to figure out what had happened, but essentially someone else had filed taxes using my name and social security number before I did. And as a result, I was prohibited. So we had to file them by paper, and the IRS wouldn't disclose initially what was going on. And I had to find out afterwards. It took a little bit of digging to do. And there was really, my accountant didn't know much about it, and there was really no one to turn to. And there was no single point of contact that I could figure out what was wrong. And so I figured I had to do something about this to prevent it from happening. Since my information was out there, I did what a lot of people did. I signed up for Equifax. I got my credit reports, and I put credit freezes on my accounts. And I realized that's not very proactive. It's really more retroactive. I mean, to a degree, when you protect your credit report, that's good. But you only get notified when someone is trying to attack you. You can't do anything otherwise to figure out if someone is getting ready to do something. And of course, Equifax then got hacked. We all know about that. And I was in that database, although if you were someone, you probably were in that database too, since so many Americans were in it. It was difficult to find out if you were in that database. Remember, that website early on wasn't working well, and you couldn't figure out if you were someone who was attacked. And then shortly after that, I started getting, one attempt at identity theft after another. Someone tried to open up a credit card in my name, get different credit in my name, and I realized that it was like playing a game of whack-a-mole. Since my information was out there, I was just stopping one after the other, and that became very challenging. I got a little frustrated, so I went down this OPSEC rabbit hole, this operational security. How do you protect your information from even getting into the wrong hands? And I'm a family doctor, just like like anybody else. I've got car loans, and I've got kids, and I've got college loans, and all that kind of stuff. So, in that video, it goes out. That touches my heart, because when someone steals from you and you can't pay your kids' tuition, or you lose money that you work so hard for, you end up staying up late at night trying to figure out what to happen. And doctors in particular were very public entities, were searchable. You could look at a person up with their name, and their doctor profile will usually come up, and there's a bunch of companies that source you. And I think about, when it comes to my phone, we use our phones an enormous amount, as everybody knows. And for us as physicians, our numbers are not only used for the obvious, your friends, your family, but it's on staff at your medical office. It's how people get a hold of you at the office. It's how clients get a hold of you, or colleagues rather, get a hold of you if they need to consult about a patient. It's on the hospital side for emergencies if you need to be called in. If you take care of newborns, that's how the nurses get a hold of you. It's when you're on call, you get that, and I'm on call today, it turns out, but they call my cell phone number. The state medical board has it. The DEA has it. Your specialty medical board has that phone number. It's tied to your identity. It's critically important. And we also use it for banks. We use it for two-factor authentication, your travel site, your hotel. If you have a hotel account, they use it as well. And just think about what would happen if you suddenly looked at your phone and you saw no service, and you didn't know what the reason was. It just said no service. And that's what it's like to have a SIM swap, because now you can't call to fix anything that's going on sort of behind your back. I've heard stories about people who, at 3 o'clock in the morning, they wake up and they see, they're on Wi-Fi, so they see these messages coming in. Thank you for changing your password. If you didn't intend to change your password, call this number. Well, now your phone is disabled because you can't. So when I think about protecting yourself, I think about two sources of control. On one side, there's the leaked and the hacked information. The leaked information would be an example of you on Spokio or mylife.com, all these places that are aggregate sources of information where people can learn enough about you to at least begin the process of impersonating you. Then there is the hack database, and those are enormous. Billions of records have been stolen, and people can check to see if they've been in a hack by going to Troy Hunt's site, which is haveibeenpwned.com, and you can look to see if your email has been in one of the thousands and thousands of breaches to see if your information is out there, because when you are hacked or when you're in that database is pulled, and it usually includes name, may have a phone number, it'll have an email address and a username as well as a password. And people tend to use passwords recurrently, and so it's easy to take that username and password and put it into different sites, and that's called credential stuffing. It's a really common way in which people get hacked. On the operational security side, protecting yourself, it's the simple stuff I think people should do to start with. Updating your operating system is really important, whether you're on Windows, Mac, Linux. I love Linux. I do recommend that people make sure that they always have the latest up-to-date system, because every time a new software push is put out, it usually contains some degree of security and privacy fixes. In your home situation, learn how to update your router's firmware. Learn how to, if you don't have a good router, then make sure you learn how to find a good, and there's plenty of resources out there, but make sure that your home network is secured. And make sure that you are using encrypted backups. That's critically important too. So when you back up your computer, put it on an external drive that's encrypted. These are all things that you're doing to protect yourself. In the event that you are hacked, you can wipe everything, restore where you were, and take steps to protect yourself going forward. Likewise, using a secure browser like Firefox or Brave browser, those are both really good. And there's plenty of information about why they're good and why they preserve your privacy. And search engines like Google will sort of keep your search data history. Search engines like DuckDuckGo and SmartPage, they don't necessarily do that. And also learning how to control your browser settings so that it wipes information whenever you're logging out. That's a really good way to protect yourself. And that's just you not leaking so much information out there. And then lastly, your phone. Make sure that your iOS or your Android software is completely up to date. Use a secure password to lock your phone. And more importantly, make sure that your phone is backed up somewhere, usually to a laptop, and then that backup is encrypted so that that information can't be lost. Because when you're a victim of SIM swap, the attackers now get your information, and they have access to all your messages, so your iMessages or your text messages. For doctors in particular, we also use two-factor authentication for a number of different things. If you have a small electronic medical record system, sometimes you use 2FA to log in. That could be a particular threat. So making sure that your phone is locked down with a secure password. And one other thing about on April 12th, there was a HackRead article that came out in which 1.41 million records of doctors was exposed for sale. And that included where you practice, your hospital, practice information. It had some personal stuff in there. It didn't include emails, but in that article, people pointed out very quickly that it's not a challenge to find a doctor's email and then start to steal information. all of this comes down to, especially with your phone. So I've talked about sort of layers of security. As Todd Weaver, who is the CEO of a company called Purism that produces privacy-focused computers, he says security is depth and it's layers of defense, and the deeper you go. He talks more about operating systems, but I'm talking about sort of higher level things that you can do yourself. SIM swaps are a huge risk, and that's why I am using Ifani's system. SIM swaps happen typically in two ways, and Haseeb, you could talk much more about this than I can, but SIM swaps happen either by somebody getting enough information to call AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, impersonating you enough that they convince the customer service representative to port your number over to another phone. And they just need enough information to do that. You can put a SIM pin on your phone. You can lock your SIM card with a pin. That only prevents your SIM from being taken from your phone and put somewhere else, but it doesn't protect you from the company transferring your number somewhere else. So you can put an account lock in which you tell the Verizon or AT&T, don't make any changes to my account unless I show up in person with a government issued ID. I know of people, even just this morning on Twitter, who posted, I had that protection. Haseeb, you mentioned, I've seen you in interviews before, where you had all that stuff in place and they still stole your information and they still hacked you. So, and then the other way that it happens is if a company is having someone work on the inside, they go after really high profile targets, actors or political people, where they really want to get that phone, that information. And anybody can be hacked or targeted, but usually it's these really high profile people where there's money involved and they want to, get that person in particular. So, Haseeb, maybe you could talk more about the SIM swaps and how your company protects people.
No, sure. So basically, the SIM swap, as Michael mentioned, that someone will basically take over your cell phone. Once they have your telephone, they will get into your email account. Once they have the email account, they'll go to social media and pretty much run a cron job to get access to everything you have. Happened to me 4 times, and frankly, it's a mixed feeling of, you feel helpless, right? You can't call anyone, and literally it's happening in front of mine. I had some cases where so I deal with these cases pretty much on a daily basis, and a lot of people think that they never happen. Some people have security and they believe, and having false sense of security is actually worse than having no security. It's like a lock on your door that anyone can open, right? And think about sleeping in your house at night where you have no locks at the door. Like, yes, someone may not come in, but it's very difficult to sleep. So I would say in this case, ignorance is bliss. But here the problem becomes is that once it happened, I have seen a lot of people being like lost, like one in the video, and other than that, like thousands of stories that don't even surface to the public. And a lot of time, what I've also seen is that hackers or criminals blackmail the person. So if they go out and they tell the police or inform anyone, they said they will release information that's very, very private to them. And that's why people and victims do not talk up. So it's pretty much like, you should take it seriously. But I'm thinking about, Michael, can you mention about this small little thing? Like, why do you think doctors generally do not take care of, updating the software is a simple thing, but I've seen in medical industry, 30 or 40% of people are still using Windows XP or something, or any operating system which are not
right.
Service. Right. Why medical feel very, very beyond in technology?
A couple reasons. Part of it is that doctors are so busy. You typically work long hours. You work late hours. You don't have a lot of time to devote to learning about the software. And oftentimes what people will say is, look, it's just too complicated. I can't do it. I need to take care of my patients. So you kind of push it off. When it comes to patient privacy and patient information, there was a push years ago, which a lot of people probably remember, in which doctors had to institute electronic medical records in their offices. And there were a number of different vendors out there, but you could get the software, but it was really up to you to install the software, have the company come out and help you get it up to speed. And you're right, Windows 97 was used a lot. Windows XP is something we used early on. A lot of companies are still on Windows 7, enterprise. They're not using Windows 10. They don't have the latest upgrades, and they don't have a huge IT department. It's very, very expensive to host a medical record system. And you've seen numerous cases across the country where doctors' offices and dentists' offices and even hospitals have been victims of ransomware, where they just don't have enough IT security. They have a lot of weak security systems in place. And sometimes all it takes is somebody inserts even a patient in a room who has a malicious intent, and I wouldn't know anybody who would ever do this, but that's one of the ways that it happens, where an employee or someone gets access to a computer, they just pop in a USB drive, and it infects the system with malware. So, it's really challenging to get this stuff under control, especially if you're a doctor in a small office and you manage your own IT, or even if you outsource an IT. Do they have really good InfoSec? Do they have really good InfoSec background? And so there's the practice side, and then there's also the personal side, where you're trying to run your practice, yet you get attacked personally, and your accounts get drained. So it has it's a number of different factors, but we're super busy.
And what's the number one thing that you believe makes them vulnerable? Like if a doctor has to do something within the next 15 minutes, what would be your suggestions to make them at least some bit of secure?
Well, so one thing you can absolutely do is, to try and protect your cell phone, because the cell phone has now become an identity marker that is almost more valuable to hackers than your social security number. It used to be that was the most important thing. That's widely available on the web now. Your phone number is widely available on the web, but since you use it for so many things, so what I tell, and I talk to my family about this, I will tell patients when I see them, if I see them get into their phone without a password, that's simple things like protecting your phone, making sure your phone has a secure password, and then calling your mobile company, calling your mobile provider and tell them to put a lock on it, and don't let anybody make any changes. And while you're doing that and updating passwords and that sort of thing, you can sign up for a Fani service. And the reason I chose it is because I even tried to log into my own mobile account to look at it, and this was just a week ago. I tried to log in and it said you can't get logged in, too many attempts. Yeah. And what that meant to me was someone was trying to get into my account using my phone number, and they didn't have the password. They couldn't get in, but they tried so many times that they got locked out. A couple days later, I get a note in the mail telling me we noticed some irregularity with activity on your account. If you didn't try to do this yourself, then give us a call. And I went, I have all these securities in place, and even someone is still trying to do it.
Certainly, I think it's an easy target. Like doctors are easy target. You go and you can find name. Frankly, you can pay someone like $100 and he'll give you a list of every person who's hacked with all the information, and then you can pick up the doctor. It's just a matter of time they'll come in. But what about using 2FA? Like, are there any software that you use that requires 2FA, and they don't accept like a Google Authenticator or Authy, and you have to use SMS?
Sure. Bank accounts. A lot of banks still don't use they don't use to what you're referring to, which is Authy or Google Authenticator, which is TOTP, a time-based one-time password.
Yeah.
There are some banks that still don't do that. I'm not sure if Wells Fargo does or B of A, but to get into your account, you still need to have they text you. And if you're using two-factor authentication, which we recommend for everybody, if your phone number is subject to SIM hacking, you're stuck, because now all they have to do is they steal your SIM card, and now they have access to your account because they just go and reset the password. They put in your username, or usually your email address, and then they get the text and they click forget password. They go and reset the password. You're just notified. And really only if you're on Wi-Fi at the time. For some people, if they're on LTE only or they're only on their cell service, they won't know because their phone will be silent. It will say no service. Would you agree with that?
100%, 100%. Like I said, I deal with like literally hundreds of cases. I've dealt with hundreds of cases, and a lot of time people say, "Oh, I just did this. I just did." Then I said, "Okay, these are the attack vectors." Because a lot of time, what I say to good people wait, bad people don't. Like criminals are basically after you, and their only goal is to hack you. They're only finding that one vulnerability that will get them account access. And once they're in, there's no way to stop them. So Authy or Google Authenticator or similar software that I recommend. Obviously, you should go for the like YubiKeys or similar software. We don't endorse this product thing, but this is a minimal. Just download Google Authenticator or Authy and just put 2FA on every possible product you can have.
Right.
Upgrade
and then
Google,
also, to that point though, also using an email service that's private, like Proton Mail or Tutanota, are two very secure. There's no 2FA SMS at all. You have to access it with a one-time based password or using a YubiKey or something along those lines. And they also give you recovery codes in case your account is hacked, which is really unlikely. You can still log in, and your account is encrypted, which is good.
Certainly, and I've said the problem the internet have done to us is that we have used to using so many free softwares, right? That we don't want to pay for software. Sometimes that happens, and they say, hey, I want to go with this carrier because they're giving me Netflix, they're giving me Disney Plus, they're giving me Netflix. But technically, what they are doing is they're just buying you in so they can sell your data. And I talk about privacy all the time. I just believe that think about if you go to Walmart and they say, hey, take this grocery for free, but we will have a camera in your living room and your kitchen, so whatever you cook, and then we have a thermometer on you so we can understand how this reacts. Like, basically you're tested for them.
Right.
It depends on, do you want to be a product or do you want to be a consumer? Like, I personally believe that we should start taking this seriously and we should get used to paying for the products and not let our data be sold. So around final thoughts around as I said, for the doctors who have not been a victim and they don't realize that it will happen, what advice can you give to them to take within next maybe 1 hour, and maybe something within 1 month that they should do to make sure that they're protected?
So there are two things. I do recommend that they go to the Afani website. One of the reasons is that you now have a section on there, which I imagine is relatively new. It is a phenomenal security blog. That security blog post is fantastic. Take a look to see if this service is right for you, because once your phone number is protected and you cannot be a victim of SIM swap, that's a huge weight off your shoulders. And it's exactly the reason that I did it. I mean, I happened to find and connect with Haseeb because I was reading stories on Twitter of people who are getting hacked and Afani stepping in and fixing it so quickly, and for people who were high profile. And I thought, I know that I'm a victim, and I know that people continue to try, and I have enough barriers in place to protect myself. But the last thing that I was missing, and I thought I was secure by having my Verizon account or stable, was to tell them don't port my number, and I just couldn't trust that it wasn't going to happen. So that's why I signed up with Afani, and signed up my family, because I don't want my daughter's phone or my son's phone or my wife's phone to get hacked, obviously. And I also have a website, drvaron.com, that I put up, and it's purely informational. It's step by step what you can do, and it does kind of mirror. I noticed there's a lot of similarities between what I put up there, and it's a work in progress, but what Afani's site has there as well, about the things that you should do. But do simple stuff. Secure your phone, secure your Wi-Fi, make sure your computer is locked down, back up your encryptions or encrypt your backups. It's all stuff that, set up a plan and then review it monthly or quarterly. Make sure that you have a security process that is, renewable.
Yeah. One thing I'll also recommend, there is a small setting on your Wi-Fi router to hide your network name. So no one will know that unit. And it literally takes like 2 minutes to set it up.
Yeah. Yes. And one last thing we didn't even touch on is the password managers. Critically important.
Yeah.
You know, don't make a password that is easy to guess. Don't use pet names or birth dates or home addresses or phone numbers. Don't change letters for numbers. You know, those are all super simple tricks that hackers know how to figure out. And it becomes easy to brute force guess your password. You know, get a good password manager like 1Password or Bitwarden are the two that I recommend. And simply let the password manager do the work for you. You know, you have one very secure password to get in, and then you let the password manager help you secure your other passwords. And the good thing about both of those is that your data is encrypted. So not even the company, even if they got hacked, could release your information because it's encrypted with private keys on your device. So that's important as well. I can't overstress how important it is to have good password hygiene.
100%. I think like people have ABCD 1 2 3 as a password a lot of time, which is fine. Like if you're just like making sure this account is public, that's fine. But password manage, once you develop the muscle memory, that's good. One other thing, Michael, I want to add to that is like, so I use a trick like where you add a plus. So like imagine your email is michael@drvaron.com. So you can say Michael plus, and you're signing for Facebook. You can say Michael plus Facebook at drvaron.com. And what it generally does is, if your account gets hacked or something and this email get exposed somewhere, you can actually figure out where your email got exposed from. So that's a good practice that you can start following. And also for newsletters, if you sign up for one newsletter, you can track who sold your information to someone else.
You know what? That's good. I've heard about that before. And to that point, when you go to look up your information on Have I Been Pwned, they will say that your name has been hacked in a database.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't freak out because chances are if you go, you're going to find your email is in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they'll say that your username and password were stolen. And the question for a lot of people have is, well, wait, what password?
Yeah.
What password was stolen? Well, it turns out that the 1Password password manager has something called a watchtower. And the watchtower links to those passwords.
Wow.
So if you go to create an account, and Firefox is doing this now too, when you go to create an account, if you put in a password that has been in a breach, it will notify you and say, this has been in a breach, don't use it.
Is it just linked to your data breach, or it could be anyone's password? Like if your password was breached,
it's the database of passwords. So any password, if you're using something that is, say you're using something that someone else has used, it's going to tell you that password has been in a data breach. And there's a separate, it's called Pwned Passwords. It's still run, I believe, run by Troy Hunt. And you can put in your password, but I don't know that I would feel comfortable putting in a password to see if it's in that, because I'm releasing a password.
Yeah. Can you just spell it out for us? Like, have I been pawned or?
Yeah. So it's HAVEI. Have I been, all one word. So HAVEIBEEN PWNED. So haveibeenpwned.com.
Okay.
And that's a phenomenal website. And Troy Hunt, who's, I believe he's a consultant for Microsoft, brilliant guy, speaks all over the world regarding security. Phenomenal. His YouTube is phenomenal as well as blogs are. So he's a good person to reach out to.
And what do you think about this other, like a browser? I use Brave. I like Brave. Don't use Firefox, but I think that's my personal preference. But frankly, you should not spend time on which one is the better. Both of them are good.
Yes, Firefox and Browse, they're both very, very good.
Yeah. So you don't optimize for that. Say for password managers, frankly, any of the top 5 are fine.
Yes.
You don't have to like optimize for which is better. All of them are very, very comparable.
Right. Just using one is important. Correct.
Yeah, like Google Authenticator or Authy, both are okay. Like don't optimize for it. Like yes, there are some features, but like frankly, if you're starting out, like don't try to go to a gym which has the best equipment, but try to see which you can make the most.
Right.
And operating system, just click on operating system update and update it automatically. It's frankly done every time. And I think these are basics. And Wi-Fi, like frankly, change your password, have a guest you log in, so you don't give out your main password everywhere. This is problem that we give out everyone, and sometimes someone else phone will get breached, and the password will be breached, and they can get access to that. And frankly, there are databases where they have list of all the Wi-Fi, and someone have access to Wi-Fi, they can get into your computers pretty easily. And same for hide your network. These are like, I think, frankly, you can do this in 15 minutes, and protect you and make you at least protect 99% of the threats.
Yes. Places, there's one guy out there who's been out there for a long time who has a really good blog, Michael Horowitz, and he is defensivecomputing.com and routersecurity. I think it's routersecurity.com or .net. But he talks a lot about every single step that you can take to secure your home network from people that are doing war driving, if you remember, but all the different things on how to update your passwords. Yeah. And keeping your guest and your personal network private, separate.
Can you repeat the websites once more?
It's Michael Horowitz, and it's Defensive Computing is one of his websites, and the other one is Router Security, and I don't remember if it's .org or .net. I do link to it. I do link to it in my on my drvaron.com webpage. That's in there because he's been a resource that I've learned a lot from.
And your website is drvaron.com, correct?
drvaron.com. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think that's all for today. I think, like I said, like rather than overwhelming with people everything, like, frankly, it's a serious threat. Like, we are victims in front of him, and there are thousands and millions of people out there who are victim. And I said every second 3 Americans become victim, and doctors are one of the high profiles. So we have. I think doctors are one of the biggest, biggest, I wanted to source, biggest segment of our customers are doctors because they are busy, they're less tech savvy, and they are prime target. On the dark web, if a doctor information is stolen, it's sold up to $2,000. So imagine if someone is paying $2,000 just for the identity, what he's going to do to you. So take it seriously, and I said you don't have to buy our service, but frankly, even if you do, it's good. But if you don't have to, that's fine. But the thing is, you should do other methods that when you get hacked or when you get SIM swapped, you should basically be your risk should be less, right? You should not suffer massive losses.
Yeah. You're right. It's all about mitigating your risk. When I started to look into this, I had no idea what to do. I didn't know who to call. And I started going to every website I could learn about securing your information and that sort of thing. And it became overwhelming. And like you're talking about, when I do talk to people about it, I can see their eyes roll in the back of their head because they go, I was talking to my sister the other day, and I'm like, you guys should do this kind of thing. And she's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Why am I at risk? I'm like, because everyone is kind of at risk. You just do some safe stuff, and it goes a long way. You could still be a target, but you sort of mitigate your risks.
Doctor, do you have on your website? I think it should be pretty simple for people to follow. And if they have to contact, is there a contact form on the website?
Yeah, there is. So. So it wasn't intended to be one of those like a blog where I answer questions and stuff like that. A couple of people did contact me, but I'm trying to make the website as complete as possible so that whatever your skill level, you can just jump to a section and go, okay, I just want to learn about password managers. I just want to learn about Wi-Fi. And it's really about giving you resources as to where to go. I am not an expert. I'm just somebody who's taken an interest in this. And it's on the side. I still have, a busy family practice. I still take care of, elderly people and kids and all that stuff. So I'm busy, but I also need some peace of mind so that I can focus on my patients and not worry that if I get a phone call or if I get a text, is this something that I need to take time away from people and deal with right now?
No, certainly, but I think, as I said, it's fine. I think I checked the website a couple of times, and it's very simple. Because a lot of time when you go to tech-savvy websites, they make it so complicated that people just shy away from getting in. They say it's too complicated. So thanks for putting it together.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good.
Okay. So drvaron.com, drvaron.com, and you should check out his website. And please listen to these things and make these tips because they will protect you against 90%, 99% of the attacks. Right.
I hope so. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.